Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. In this video I will give you a complete guide for the new Imaginary Scramble event, which should start by the end of October if we follow the JP schedule. I have compiled this guide earlier than usual, mainly because I'm not sure I will have enough free time at the end of the month, but also because I want to address the pre-release campaign for this event. You'll get what I mean in a moment. Aside this first out layer, the structure of this guide will be similar to my past ones, meaning I will cover in order an event summary explaining the new mechanics and how to progress in this event, the limited CEs and command codes with emphasis on which one are the best for farming and which one will be useful after the event, the bonus servants with their special drop bonus for the event currencies, and tips on the farming setups. Then I will give you a free quest overview, focusing on the efficiency for materials and event currencies of each node, which will lead to a more detailed efficiency analysis for the shop currencies and the exploration currencies, comparing the 3 level 90 plus single nodes to the 2 level 90 mixed nodes. Finally, in the last part of the video, I will address in details the single nodes, the level 90 plus ones, with 3 turns farming setups for each node. As usual, ranked and listed from best to worst according to my personal criteria. Let's start then with the event pre-release campaign. Aside the much appreciated buffs to Foreigner and Gilles when the event starts, what's so special about this campaign is the rate up on the summoning banner. In fact, both the 5-star Imaginary Round CE and the 4-star Imaginary Element are on rate up for this banner. Both of them are General Pool CE that usually don't get any rate up, meaning you can play this event for years and never get one copy of these CEs, just like Kaleidoscope or Black Grail for example. If you are a day 1 veteran player, you should have at least one copy or more of these CEs, especially the 4-star Imaginary Element. But if that's not the case, or maybe you just need a few more copies to maximally break them, then I highly advise you to summon in this banner. In particular, if you are still lacking a Kaleidoscope, now that we have append skills, you can basically replicate it using a maximally broken Imaginary Element with level 1 mana loading. Yes, you still won't get the full attack stat, but your party cost will be lower, letting you bring higher rarity servants for bond farming or higher rarity CEs for all other bonuses. Being a 4-star CE on rate up, it shouldn't be too difficult to even get the full 5 copies required to maximally break it. For the 5-star Imaginary Round, the priority is lower, but it's still one of the best quick CE in the game. So for example, if you just need a few more copies to maximally break it, you should consider summoning on this campaign. Keep in mind that the general pool of CEs has drastically inflated since the start of the game, and it will keep increasing in size as we go on, meaning your chances of getting spooked by one of these CEs has drastically decreased and will keep decreasing with time. So far I talked about the CEs on rate up, but even the servants on rate up are really good. We have 2 of the only 3 single target Foreigner in the game, both of which are also getting buffed in this campaign, considering that Foreigner is the 2nd rarest class in the game after Moon Cancer. This already is a great plus for this banner. Then we have Mamaraiko Lancer on rate up, which is still one of the best Buster support in the game. And finally Frankenstein Saber, which is a quick-based boss killer with spammable NP that can stun and on-demand buff removal. In other words, be it CEs or servants, this banner should prove valuable to you whichever you'll get. especially if you are a new player that started late and couldn't roll for these limited servants, or due to the increasing size of the general pool of CEs, you are still lacking a single Kaleidoscope. As a final note, the JP server recently got a free CE ticket, so you will be able to get at least one copy of Kaleidoscope, Black Grail and so on, but you'll still need to wait 2 years for that. And keep in mind that there will be a lot of targets that you'll want to get. So if you are still lacking a Kaleidoscope, this summoning banner will let you get a pseudo replacement for a very cheap price compared to hoping to get a Kaleidoscope. We can now move on with the actual event, starting with a quick summary. First of all, in order to participate in this event, you'll need to clear Lost Spell 1. However, to avoid story spoilers, it's recommended to reach at least Lost Spell 4. In the aforementioned pre-release campaign, you will also get alpha APs in all main quests to help you catch up with the story. The objective of this event is to escape from Void Space, and you'll do so by exploring the different maps in this event. In practice, you'll need to farm 3 quests in order to gather 3 types of exploration currencies, which you can see on the screen right now, using them to perform scansions of the map, thus revealing new locations. You can then explore the revealed map in order to get materials and exploration points. In practice, while exploring, you'll find a special type of enemies and treasures, aka Ascension materials, Mana Prism, Common Code, and so on. The exploration points will unlock new main quests and better free quests to farm, moving you to new sectors of the map. There is also a point ladder to climb for exploration points, giving Mana Prism and QPs. Finally, as usual, the event shop requires 3 shop currencies, which are dropped in 3 quests. Their drop rate can be increased by the event Gacha CEs, while the new exploration currencies required to progress in this event can have their drop rate increased by bringing event bonus servants in the party. Since the exploration is what gates the progress in this event, you want to focus on these new currencies the most, at least in the first part of the event. With main quest progress, you will unlock special support requests to help you during exploration battles or free quests. You can check all of them on the screen right now. In practice, by expanding the much requested exploration currencies, you can get all type of buffs for your team or debuffs for the enemies. So for example, they can enable some looping setups that otherwise wouldn't be possible for farming free quests. However, as I just said, the exploration currencies are what are needed the most to progress in this event, so you really shouldn't waste them like this outside of maybe some difficult exploration battles. For this reason, the support requests are not included in my farming setups calculation. In any case, I would have needed the exact numbers that are not provided in the wiki. You can have some fun with them by the end of the event when all explorations are done, but keep in mind that, as always, you can exchange the extra exploration currencies for QPs after the end of the event. When it comes to the event limited Gacha CEs, all 3 of them can help with farming given the NP gain or the arts buff, facilitating 3 turns looping compositions, but the gold Gacha CE Mystery Treasure can help the most with the starting NP charge. As you will see, this is especially true for the gold level 90 plus node, but also for the 2 high-end mixed nodes that drops all 3 shop currencies. This event features multiple damage CEs, the free 5-star Like a Bird, with the biggest bonus damage, of which you can get 4 copies from the event shop. So as usual, to max limit break it, you'll need to get an extra drop while farming free quests. The other 2 damage CEs are the ones featured in the pre-release campaign, Imaginary Around and Imaginary Element. This last one in particular will be extremely useful for farming, thanks to the stellar combination of NP charge and damage bonus. In practice, a maximally unbroken imaginary element CE with unlocked mana loading is equivalent to a fusion between Kaleidoscope and Black Grail, at least for the duration of this event. In other words, we are fusing the Goku and Vegeta of the farming CEs, so it shouldn't be surprising to see this CE a lot in my farming compositions, at least in my 5-slot setups. If you like Gorilla Buster Crit Servants, and you are lacking the free CE Joint Recital and the Gacha CE Victor of the Moon, then the free event damage CE like a bird can be a nice replacement. It offers additional stars each turn, but keep in mind that its buffs are lower compared to the two aforementioned CEs. Nonetheless, try to get all 4 copies from the shop, and hopefully you'll get the 5th copy to maximally break it while farming. Going over the event limited command codes very quickly, I just want to point out that the 5-star one has the highest crit damage buffs which can be applied to general enemies. In practice, all of them aside the ones that are immune to debuffs. And of course the cheater BB Summer, which is passively immune to burn status. Outside these niche boss fights, the combination of this new command code with the 3 past ones that can inflict burn status can create a crit monster if you give him a maximally unbroken Honey Lake CE for another stacking 40% damage buffs together with invincibility pierce. Again, this setup is incredibly strong since it works on basically all enemies, aside some very specific boss fight with debuffs immunity. Once again, thank you very much Arjuna Alter. Now let's take a look at the event bonus servants, which, as I said at the beginning, are critical for the event progression. In fact, aside the usual damage bonus and bond bonus, all bonus servants divided by classes will increase the drop rate of 1 exploration currency, with Nemo and Van Gogh being the only 2 exceptions since they are the new servants. The 2 of them will increase the drop rate of all 3 exploration currencies, meaning if possible you'll always want to bring them while farming free quests, both your own copy and a support if possible, at least until you are done with the exploration and you can focus on the event shop. In fact, as we'll see in a moment, all free quests drop at least 2 exploration currencies, with the mixed notes dropping all 3 of them, meaning Nemo and Van Gogh are always the best choice for bonus servants to bring in the party. Regarding the other bonus servants, basically all servants with a swimsuit, as you can see, for each class except Alter Ego, there are bonus servants that are useful for farming the regular nodes under level 90, aka AoE, Arts or Quick Loopers, and also some strong AoE Buster DPS with big NP batteries. These regular nodes are all single class with a 3-3-3 layout of enemies, all of which have relatively low HPs, except one final boss in room 3 with high HPs. This pattern is the same for all the regular nodes, which feature all 7 standard classes as enemies, with the only exception of archers found only in one of the level 90 plus nodes. In other words, all regular nodes under level 90 are perfect for looping while also using a bonus servant as DPS to get an extra drop bonus for the exploration currencies. The level 90 plus nodes have instead a different layout of enemies and thus require single target DPS in addition to the usual AoE DPS. For this reason, these level 90 plus nodes are the ones which are covered in the last part of the video, focusing on the best 3 turns farming compositions. Before we take an actual overview of the free quests, I want to stress again how important it is to bring Nemo and Van Gogh and the correct classes of bonus servants while farming free quests, since exploration currencies are what gate progress in this event. meaning for this event, as far as standard looping composition are concerned, quick setup with double Scadi are far superior to hard setup with double Castoria when it comes to the exploration currencies. That's because, of course, of the three big supports, only Scadi and Merlin are bonus servants in this event. Taking a look at the quick bonus DPS, you should immediately spot two universal and optimal farming teams. I'm talking about double Scadi with Dantes, using a maximally unbroken imaginary element C for both damage and starting MP charge, together with level 6 mana loading and a Mystic Code with 10% MP charge. Even better is the setup with Voyager, since thanks to his 50% MP charge skill, he can use the gold Gacha CE for shop currency bonus, with level 10 mana loading if it's a base CE, or without mana loading if it's a maximally unbroken copy. With these two setups you should be able to farm all regular nodes under level 90, bringing a full party of bonus servants, to maximize your drop bonus for exploration currencies and even the bond bonus from the event. If you really want to go overboard, you can try and build a team that use only one Scadi and one Merlin. That way you'll be able to choose a support Nemo or Van Gogh for max drop bonus, but doing so requires multiple starting MP charge Cs, since you won't be able to loop with a single DPS, meaning you are sacrificing the drop bonus for the shop currencies. But in case you are lacking Gacha CEs to bring to the party, and you happen to have multiple maximally unbroken copy of imaginary element CE, then these non-looping teams will let you maximize the drop bonus for exploration currencies without drawbacks. Anyway, most of you will go quick looping setups for simplicity, so be a good friend and put your own Scadi on supports. Let's now take a quick overview of all free quests. As you can see on the screen right now, there are a total of 12 free quests in this event, which will be unlocked by gathering exploration points, as I said at the beginning of the video, and for simplicity we can divide them in 3 groups: the 4 earlier nodes, the 5 middle nodes, and the 3 final nodes. I have divided them this way to separate the different classes of farming efficiency. You can see that the pattern basically repeats itself at the beginning, with a bronze node followed by a silver node, then a gold node, and finally a mixed node. And then the pattern repeats itself in the second group, simply with higher base drop rates. Just before the final group of the 3 level 90 plus single nodes, we have the only outlier, and by that I mean a node that only drops the 3 exploration currencies, the Battle Cruiser node. As we'll see in the next part of the video covering the farming efficiency, this node is a contender for best efficiency if you are only interested in the exploration currencies, and maybe the level 90 plus nodes are too difficult for you to farm reliably. When it comes to shop currencies, I will instead compare the efficiency of the level 90 plus single nodes with the latest mixed node available, the Heavy Cruiser node. But just to point this out immediately, since in this event we don't have a mixed level 90 plus nodes as we have been accustomed to with previous events, then the final 3 level 90 plus single nodes will usually be the best choice for farming efficiency, even if you are low on Gacha CEs. Before moving to the actual farming efficiency analysis, if you are interested, you can use the table on the screen right now to calculate the total expected drop of material for each run of the free quests. This average number is given by the sum of the first column, that is the fixed expected drop without any bonus, and the second column, aka the bonus expected drop, where the factor P is the drop bonus from event CE or event servants. With these numbers you should be able to calculate how many runs of each free quest you'll need to progress in this event, and if you'll need to use apples. Finally, for each exploration currency I have highlighted the classes with the bonus drop, so be sure to bring the correct bonus servants while farming. Let's now check more in details the farming efficiency for shop currencies and exploration currencies, comparing the 3 final level 90 plus single nodes and the 2 latest mixed nodes, the heavy cruiser and the battle cruiser nodes. Let's start as usual with the shop currencies. If you have watched my past videos, you should be familiar with this, but there is a catch this time around, as I have anticipated. Usually, as it goes, assuming you still need all 3 currencies to clear the event shop, the simple rule is to farm mixed nodes if you have few Gacha CEs, or single nodes if you have a lot of Gacha CEs. And what I will usually tell you is that more precisely the only reason to farm a single node is using a lot of Gacha CEs for that node, but not being able to use all of them while farming the mixed nodes, aka not having good farming setups. But these were the rules for the past events, where the single nodes were level 90 and mixed nodes were level 90 plus, so they managed to catch up in a way. This time around it's the single nodes that are level 90 plus, and the mixed nodes are only level 90, meaning the strength relation between the two has been swapped. So now, for the simple rule, having few Gacha CEs mean 0 Gacha CEs, and having a lot of Gacha CEs mean at least 1. And similarly, the only reason to farm a mixed node is not being able to farm the new level 90 plus single nodes, or, specifically for this event, prioritizing the exploration currencies over the shop, as we'll see in a moment in the next part of the video. As you should have guessed, the mixed node for shop currencies in this event is not very good. In fact, it's the worst of the past year. As usual, since even free-to-player setups have 3 slots available for CEs, you should consider farming the single nodes if your single drop bonus is 2 or higher, meaning just 1 maximally broken CE from supports is enough. In other words, you should always check the complete rule coming up right now to decide between single nodes and a mixed node. Instead, this time around we have a different simplified rule, aka if your single drop bonus is at least 6, then single nodes are surely better than mixed node. You don't need to check the following rule. That's because with just this bonus you are exceeding the maximum amount of drops for the mixed node when using 6 maximally broken copy of the Gacha CEs. For the complete rule, as usual, we'll call X the single drop bonus while farming the level 90 plus single nodes, and Y the mixed drop bonus of your farming team for the level 90 mixed node. To calculate them, you just need to count the number of Gacha CEs in your farming setups, remembering that maximally broken copies count as 2. Substitute these 2 numbers in the inequality on the screen, and if it turns out true, then mixed node is better than single node AP-wise. If it's false, then single node is better. If you prefer a graphical method, simply draw the points of coordinates x and y in the graph below, and if that point falls in the blue region above the blue line, then mixed node is better. If it falls in the white region below the line, then single node is better. As you should have guessed, the blue line is the equality line for the 2 nodes. I have made a practical example with numbers if you think it's complicated. As usual, I have simplified the inequality above to make calculation easier. I will just put it here to be precise, but don't worry about it. You just need to know that the line in the graph below is referring to this 100% correct inequality. Now for the usual simplified criteria to measure the strength between the 2 nodes. Assuming you can use all the Gacha CEs for the single node, even for the mixed node, aka y is at least x, and for this event this assumption should be true for all of you, since the mixed node is easier to farm than the level 90 plus single nodes, then mixed node is surely better AP-wise if your single drop bonus is at most 1. This proves my earlier claim that this mixed node is the worst of the past year, since we never got a number this low. As I said at the beginning, there is no simplified rule this time around, since with just one maximum broken Gacha CE from supports, you are outside the range of this simplified rule, meaning you will always need to use the complete rule with the inequality or the graph. But overall, as you should have guessed by now, comparing the blue and the white area on the graph, we can conclude that for most of you guys, single nodes will be more efficient. When it comes to the 3 exploration currencies, aside the heavy cruiser mixed node that drops all 6 event currencies, both shop and exploration, we also need to take a look at the battle cruiser mixed node that only drops the 3 exploration currencies, but of course with a higher drop rate. Assuming you still need all 3 materials to explore the map. In other words, since all of them can be used for different scansions of the map, this translates in if you still need to explore the map, then the simple rule is to farm the level 90 plus single nodes, or the battle cruiser mixed node if interested only in the exploration currencies. More precisely, the only reason to farm the heavy cruiser mixed node is caring more about the shop currencies, because for example you have almost finished exploring, but you can't reliably clear the level 90 plus single nodes. Aside being more difficult to farm, the level 90 plus single nodes have another disadvantage compared to the mixed nodes, since despite their higher drop rate, they benefit less from bonus servants because they drop only 2 types of exploration currencies, against all 3 types dropped in the 2 mixed nodes, meaning Nemo and Van Gogh count as +3 drop bonus for the mixed nodes, but only +2 for the level 90 plus single nodes. The 2 new servants aside, it's of course also easier to reach a higher drop bonus for the mixed node, since any bonus servants will do the trick, while for the single level 90 plus nodes, you may lack the correct class of bonus servants to bring for the bonus, or maybe you have them but they can't farm reliably that node. Overall, when it comes to exploration currencies, the battle cruiser mixed node is comparable to the single nodes, while the heavy cruiser mixed node that we have analyzed in the previous section is notably worse. When considering the battle cruiser mixed node, you will always need to check the complete rule coming up in a minute, since the simplified rule is that you should consider farming single nodes if your single drop bonus is 2 or higher. And since even order change setups can afford 2 slots of bonus servants in the backline, you should always be able to reach at least +2 by bringing 2 free-to-player bonus servants. When considering instead the heavy cruiser mixed node, the simple rule is to always farm the single nodes if your single drop bonus is at least 6, because that way you are exceeding the maximal amount possible of drops that you will get by bringing a full party of bonus servants in the mixed node. That is, even considering double Nemo or double Van Gogh. For the complete rule, we proceed exactly as in the previous section. This time, to calculate the drop bonuses, you just need to count the number of bonus servants in your farming setups, remembering, as we have said before, that Nemo and Van Gogh count as 2 for the single nodes and as 3 for the mixed nodes. Starting with the battle cruiser mixed node that only drops exploration currencies. Just as before, you can use the inequality above or the graph below to decide if the mixed node is better, AP-wise. This time both the graph and the inequality are 100% correct. And using the same criteria as before to compare the 2 nodes, assuming you can use all bonus servants for the single node, even for the mixed node, which should be true since the mixed nodes are easier to farm, and all the bonus servants that gives a drop bonus in the single nodes will surely get the drop bonus for the mixed nodes, since they drops all currencies, then you can be sure that mixed node is better than single node AP-wise if your single drop bonus is at most 1. meaning there is no simplified rule, since even with order change setups you should have at least 2 free slots for free-to-player bonus servants in the backline. You will always need to check the graph for the complete rule. From said graph you can see that the blue area and the white area are basically equal, meaning overall the battlecruiser mixed node is comparable to the level 90 plus single nodes. It manages to catch up thanks to the bigger bonus of Nemo and Van Gogh when used in the mixed nodes. The same analysis done for the heavy cruiser mixed node, dropping all 6 event currencies, both shop and exploration, clearly shows that it's notably worse, with the white area far bigger than the blue area. And as you can see, this time, even with 0 drop bonus, the heavy cruiser mixed node loses the single nodes, meaning we can scratch the simplified rule I've tried to give you before for the previous nodes. To summarize things, I have combined in a single graph our analysis of the 2 mixed nodes when it comes to exploration currencies. And as you can see, their efficiency compared to the single nodes can be different even with the same drop bonus, as showed in the example on the screen, in which the point falls in the blue region between the blue line and the purple line. Before we start discussing the actual farming compositions, I will leave here the usual important farming tips, together with the assumption I've used when compiling the farming setups. In particular, key skills are assumed level 10. Next, if you are interested, I will put here my ranking rules for the farming setups, since as always for each node I will list them from best to worst. I have already discussed the best universal farming setups for the level 90 nodes in the previous section focusing on the bonus servants. So if you have skipped here, I highly advise you to go back and check the section. In those earlier nodes you'll want to focus as much as possible on exploration currencies, so you want to maximize your drop bonus by bringing as much bonus servants as possible in your party, and of course this still holds true in some ways for the final level 90 plus single nodes, but since they will unlock later in the event, I will first and foremost rank them according to their potential drop bonus for shop currencies, meaning how many Gacha CEs they can use. Then, for those setups that can use the same number of Gacha CEs, I will rank higher the ones that can use the most bonus servants, to maximize the drop bonus even for exploration currencies. Let's start then with the Battleship bronze node. For this one and for all other 2 single nodes, I will put in the top right corner of the screen the event currencies that are dropped in that node, and right below I will put the classes that will give drop bonus for the exploration currencies. I want to point out immediately that when it comes to ascension materials, none of them can be farmed more efficiently in this event compared to the best free quest available outside the event. This is true for all 3 level 90 plus single nodes. When it comes to this Battleship bronze node, it's definitely the most difficult one to farm, thanks to its 2-1-2 layout of enemies and their class being Archer. We have faced a similar node in the recent hunting quests, but this time it's even worse, since we have a secondary mob even in room 3 in addition to the secondary mob in room 1. Given that the bronze Gacha CE don't offer starting NP charge, 6 slot setups are out of the way, just like in the previous hunting quests. To deal with the high HP enemies in both room 2 and room 3, you'll need to use single target Lancer and Berserkers, or alternatively you can use Nemo, since he has pseudo class advantage in this event. Since you want to loop their NPs, Arts servants are your best choice, but unfortunately Berserkers and Lancer have the least amount of single target NP loopers. Basically you'll only consider the welfare Kagetora and Vlad. Since Nemo refund is not very good, even accounting to the 30% NP charge, Vlad will actually be your best NP looper for this node. To make Nemo works, in order to maximize the exploration currencies drop bonus, you can use him together with Voyager, that will be able to clear both lower mobs in room 1 and room 3, while charging Nemo NP bar. This setup is the most optimal one when it comes to total drop bonus, but to work reliably it needs NP2 for both Voyager and Nemo. Otherwise there will be RNG in both room 2 and room 3. Furthermore, without said card RNG, this setup required 4 turns, since Nemo even needs the final MP in room 3 from Voyager to refill his MP bar. Be sure to check the notes on each setup. In particular, you will often see that a muscling and broken imaginary element CE will be required for the extra damage bonus, compared to base CE with level 6 mana loading, offering the same total amount of starting MP charge. A similar setup uses Nemo and Loli Vinci, and since he has an extra 10% MP charge compared to Voyager, with lowered mana loading on Nemo, a 3 turns farming setup is possible. Again, NP2 for Loli Vinci is advised, since otherwise you'll have RNG in both room 1 and room 3. To be clear, when I advise higher MP level, it means that the setup can work even at MP1 when it comes to refund. However, it will not be an MP only kill, so you may need face cards in order to finish some enemies. Moving on to Vlad looping setups. For this one you can use Arash to clear room 1 and Nemo to clear the secondary mob in room 3, while also greatly buffing Vlad, thanks to his skills being powered up in this event, given the water/void sea field for all 3 quests. I will use Nemo in a similar way even in the following setups, to buff other Arts DPS, and just like in this case, we will often use his first skill to buff the damage required in room 1. For example, here Arash needs both a Maximum Broken Imaginary Element CE together with Nemo S1 at level 10 in order to kill in room 1. As always, check the details on the screen. Despite the lower drop bonus for exploration currencies, this setup don't require limited DPS like Loli Vinci and Voyager, and neither requires level 10 mana loading. However, NP2 Vlad is still advised. If instead you only have NP1 Vlad, but you have your own Tamamo, you can use this setup instead. This one is dropping even Nemo, so even lower drop bonus for exploration currencies. Furthermore, you'll need RNG for face cards in room 3, since you won't have an AoE NP ready in that room. Fortunately, Vlad will be mega buffed and he produces his own stars, so one face card will usually be enough. Otherwise, you can still stun the mob and go for one more turn. Finally, as the only 4-slot setup, I wanted to give you this one that is both cheap compared to the previous ones, using the Welfare Consort U, and also requires only recent servants, since Castoria, Summer Chiara and Consort U have all come out in the recent months, so even newer players that started with Castoria had a chance to get them. Keep in mind that despite this being only a 4-slot, it has the same potential drop bonus for exploration currencies as the best farming setup with Voyager and Nemo. It's only lacking a Gacha CE slot. Consort U will absolutely destroy Robin being male in room 3, but for this setup to work, you'll probably need to lure at least one between her first and third skill. Check the notes on the screen carefully. For the calculations, I have assumed the field counts as water. I mean, we are in the middle of the sea, so if by chance they are pulling a trick and saying that this one is only an imaginary element sea, then for this setup to work, you'll need to use the quick buff you will get by choosing Fran in your support requests. Of course, doing so costs exploration currencies, so I really hope the Lightworks played fair this time. Moving on to the Dreadnought Silver node. This one is thankfully easier to farm with his 1-1-3 layout and with the mob in room 1 being a berserker. Again, as I said before, no ascension materials can be farmed more optimally in this event compared to existing free quests, but at least this time a 6-slot setup is possible, thanks to the high HP enemies being casters, which offers the best NP refund. To use a 6-slot setups, only Vlad and Sitonai have the required refund, both suggested at NP2, with Vlad having better damage in room 3 together with the crit stars, in case you'll need face cards. Nevertheless, both will require the help of Voyager to charge their NP bars. He will be able to clear both room 1 and the mobs in room 3, thanks to his bonus damage against enemies with the Sky attribute. Unfortunately, even at MP5, Loli Vinci won't be able to refund enough in this setup, so here Voyager 50% NP charge makes the difference. As far as shop currencies are concerned, this is the best setup, but you should keep in mind that for this node Voyager doesn't give drop bonus for neither of the two exploration currencies. So if you want to maximize your exploration drop bonus, you can use the following setup instead, at the cost of losing one CE slot for Gacha CEs. Read carefully the notes on the screen for this one, since refund for NP1 Nemo in room 2 is very tight, requiring buffs for one extra hit of overkill in order to refund enough. Alternatively, if you have a maximally broken imaginary element CE, things are easier and you can use the skill order described in the notes on the lower part of the screen. Modifying the first setup we have looked at, with a maximally broken imaginary element CE, we can let Loli Vinci loop and also reach the required damage numbers. Again, NP2 is advised for all DPS. In this setup in particular, face cards will need to deal with a lot of remaining HPs if using NP1 DPS. With this being a caster node, for an extra drop bonus for exploration currencies, you can use Murasaki if you have her mana loading lowered. Skills order will be different for her, so be sure to check the bottom part of the screen. Finally, as the only 4-slot CE, as usual I want to give a cheap one using some free-to-player DPS. And this one is indeed cheaper when it comes to servants, but requires 2 maximally broken imaginary element CEs, so pick your poison. The main gimmick of this setup is using both Buster and Arts DPS that are buffed by Brynhild thanks to their beloved trait. Arash will take care of room 1, either Mandricardo or Ryoma will loop in room 2 and room 3, with Mandricardo having the best NP refund, while Ryoma has the party NP charge and higher buffs. Since we are talking about Arts single target riders, these two basically outshine Nemo if you are not fighting in a water field. In particular, Ryoma kit is basically Nemo, just in a welfare with free NP5. The JP servers have gotten a field change support, but again I think Nemo will need to be able to proc his own field in order to make it worth compared to this free NP5 DPS. Returning to the setup, Brynhild will be able to take care of room 3, I mean the 2 lower HP mobs, thanks to her effectively 40% NP charge by turn 3. And of course thanks to the event damage bonus. Moving on to the final gold node, the Super Dreadnought node. This one is definitely the easiest one to farm among the 3 level 90 plus nodes, thanks to all the enemies being berserkers. So despite the unusual layout, we have a very large pool of DPS to choose from. In particular, the final boss in room 3 is tailor-made for Nemo, since it procs the special damage on his MP, that together with his 100% event bonus damage will push the numbers to astronomical levels, meaning Nemo don't need really much help in order to clear room 3, so you can spare the buffs for the other secondary DPS that has to take care of room 1 and room 2. Another thing to mention is that the gold Gacha CE gives starting MP charge, 30% with a base copy and 50% with a massively broken one. For this reason I will only consider 6 slot setups for this node, since they are pretty easy to reach, again relatively speaking. So this time the order of the setups will be decided by their total drop bonus for exploration currencies. And since archers, riders and rulers don't give drop bonus for this node, you won't see any DPS from those classes in the following setups, even if among those bonus servants there are some of the best MP loopers in the entire game, like Archer Artoria, Jean Archer or Mordred Rider. Let's start then with the 2 setups that can use 5 bonus servants in the party, requiring only a single Castoria for the sheer amount of raw MP charge she can provide and to let Nemo refund enough. The first one is the best setup with the highest drop bonus and the highest bond bonus for the servants in the party, using Voyager, Nemo and Skadi. As will almost all the following setups, Nemo will take care of room 1 and room 3, while the secondary DPS will take care of room 2. In this particular case, even at MP1, both Nemo and Voyager don't even need Master Attack or Skadi Defense down in order to kill with MP only in both room 2 and room 3. Those buffs will instead be required if you want to use another DPS instead of Voyager. We can in fact use other AoE DPS that can charge Nemo with either their skills or their MPs. Among quick DPS that can benefit from Skadi support, we have Parvati and Bradamante. As an outlayer, you can also use Gorgon, since her damage against Berserkers is comparable to other AoE 4-star DPS, even without a Buster dedicated support, since Merlin can't provide the raw MP charge required, even if it's technically a bonus servant that you can bring. Keep in mind that unlike Voyager, these 3 DPS don't have bonus damage and neither 50% MP charge, so in order to work reliably, NP2 is highly advised, and in any case they'll need a maximum broken Gacha CE and lowered mana loading, with only Parvati being able to use a level 1 mana loading. Be sure to check all the details on the screen. In particular, if using Voyager, be sure to use his second skill in room 2 on the skeleton. Alternatively, if you don't have any of the DPS we have talked about that can charge Voyager NP bar, while also dealing with room 2, then using Nemo with a lowered mana loading, you can bring Ushua Kamaru Assassin to deal with room 2. Even with her bonus damage, it's advised to have her at MP2, but despite being more expensive, this setup still have the same highest drop and bond bonus as with the previous setup. Just keep in mind that this one requires a maximum broken Gacha CE, while the previous one could use a base CE if you have lowered mana loading on Nemo. Before we move on to double Castoria setups, I want to stress out that the setup we have talked about so far don't require double supports, meaning if you have all the servants and the CE involved, you can take a support Nemo or support Van Gogh in order to maximize the drop bonus for exploration currencies, something you won't be able to do with the following setups that requires double Castoria, which on top of that will have of course a lower drop bonus for exploration currencies, since Skadi is a bonus servant while Castoria is not. Let's start with a 6-slot setup with relatively high drop bonus and high bond bonus, since we'll be switching Castoria for Skadi, but we are retaining a bonus servant to deal with room 2. However, since those won't charge Nemo NP, Again, you'll need a maximally unbroken Gacha CE for him, together with lowered mana loading. In order of decreasing damage, Hokusai and Kiara at MP1 will be able to kill with MP only even without Master Attack in Room 2. Gilgamesh and Musashi needs the Master Attack but will be able to kill even at MP1. And finally, Melt, Tomoe and Nito may need face cards at MP1 even with Master Attack, but they will always kill at MP2. Keep in mind that those without MP charge skills will need either unlocked mana loading, which can be difficult for NP1 4-star servants unless you have really bonded them up, or else you'll need to use a maximally unbroken copy of the Gacha CE. Case in point, Melt Lancer actually has an MP charge, but since it drains Nemo NP bar, you can't actually use it. Another point in favor of Fiona, I guess. You know you loved that blonde spook. With the following setups, we are dropping to low drop bonus and low bond bonus territory, and for this first one, in Room 2 we are using AoE Arts DPS that can once again charge Nemo NP bar. I'm talking about Jason, Helena and Sabershiki. Being Art servants, they can benefit from Nemo skills, buffed by the Void Space Field, so that even without bonus damage they can work at MP1, or even at 1-star rarity for MP5 Jason. I've been waiting so long for an Argonaut squad. Since we are charging Nemo, you can use a base Gacha CE if you have lowered his mana loading. Instead, both Jason and Sabershiki will need unlocked mana loading to work with a base Gacha CE, which this time shouldn't be a problem. Next, we have the mandatory Gogh setup. In order to keep the drop bonus and bond bonus to decent level, you can use any 20% NP charger among bonus servants, at least among the classes that gives drop bonus for this node. In fact, the damage buffs they will provide is not required in order to kill with MP only. But anyway, Prince of Langling if you want is the strongest option. Merlin is instead the one that most of us veteran players should have. Otherwise, even free-to-player that started this year should have Consort U welfare from the last summer event. As usual with the Gogh setups, rotating supports will solve the problem of MP charges, meaning these setups only require 2 base copies of the Gacha CE, without any append skill. It's time for the cheap 6-slot setup, using only free-to-player DPS, so you just need your own Castoria for this one. Summer Hokusai is our strongest option, being able to loop her MP in Room 1 and kill in Room 3. Grey is instead our best option for Room 2, given her 20% MP charge, but most importantly her 100% bonus damage against the undead in Room 2. If you want to bond with other DPS instead of Hokusai Saber, Heroine X can actually use a base CE with lowered mana loading. Instead, Yang will need both a maximally unbroken Gacha CE and lowered append. NP2 is also advised for her. Finally, I want to mention an insta-kill 6-slot setup as a variation of the previous one. If you lack Grey, this one use Nitrocris with level 10 skill 1 in order to guarantee the insta-kill on the skeletons in Room 1 and Room 2, since they should have 100% death rate being bronze undead mob. Unfortunately, this setup is more expensive than the previous one, even if we disregard the switch between a welfare servant and Nitocris, since this time you'll need both a maximally unbroken Gacha CE and lowered mana loading. That's because despite Nitocris 100% NP charge, you need to NP twice with her, so her battery needs to be saved for Room 2, and since similarly Castoria NP batteries needs to be saved for Hokusai Saber to refill her NP bar, Nitocris must reach 100% NP bar in Room 1 with only a single Castoria S1. It should still be a usable setup for those lacking Grey, and that don't need 6 slots for Gacha CEs, because they are passing on waifu Van Gogh in the hope of getting Muramasa next year. So for those players, they can safely use a maximally broken imaginary element CE, removing most of the cost of this setup. That's all for today, guys. If you have found this type of content useful, please let me know by subscribing to the channel, leaving a like or a comment. It may not seem like it, but it really helps me keep up the motivation to make more of this kind of guides, especially with my ever so limited free time. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, I hope I'll see you next time. Bye bye.